I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig. Welcome to my new series called The Pivot. We are so excited to bring you deeper conversations with people who've made really impactful changes in their lives. We're going to find out how they do it and how you can also learn from their experience. We're thrilled to be partnering with Signal Relief, a pain patch reliever. I've used it and had tremendous success. We're really excited to have you join us and learn more about how to make the important pivots in your life. Hello and welcome to The Pivot. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig. This is brought to you by our sponsors at Signal Relief. Today we are interviewing RealDeanCain. Many of you know him as Superman from the series Lois and Clark. And today he's going to reveal a lot of interesting information about him, especially if you're not familiar with his background. You're going to hear a lot of new information. Plus he's promoting a great movie he wrote, directed, and starred in called Little Angels. I am so excited to have RealDeanCain here with me. He's going to talk about a new movie that he wrote, produced, and starred in called Little Angels. It's fabulous. I had the opportunity to watch it, and so we're going to get into talking about the motivation and a little bit about Dean's background, which is so interesting. Dean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Robi, for having me on. I love this film. I wrote it, produced it, directed it, starred in it, everything. So if you don't like it, it's my fault. But I just love how it turned out. Had a great team around me, great actors, and hopefully it just puts a smile on people's faces.
Well, it certainly pulled on my heartstrings. I have to say, there were moments during the film where I got very emotional. And I don't know if that was your intention throughout the movie or if that was just a byproduct of the acting and how you produced it.
Of course, it was my intention directing it and putting it together. But you never know. It's funny because it's like football or soccer or any sport. When you're making a movie, there are so many other people that you depend on. And so you need your actors to do the job. I wrote it and I directed it and I produced it, so I took care of those things. But every actor has an interpretation of a character. Your editor has interpretation of the way things should go. Your other producers do as well. The music makes such a difference. And so all of those things coming together, you end up with this living, breathing, wonderful collaboration. You know, it's weird is because you'll be sitting in the editing room and you'll be making these decisions and doing these things after writing it. Then you write some things, you're like, ooh, that didn't work out very well. And that's just axed out or whatever it is, or changed or shortened or put somewhere else or whatever it happens to be. And then there's moments where you're surprised. Like there was a moment and I had the wrong music in it first where she doesn't want to take the penalty shot because she's not that good. And then my music guy came in and changed the music and he put in something. He was like, what do you think of this? And when I saw that version, I like teared up and started to cry. And I was like, that's the moment. And I didn't see it, even though I wrote it and directed it. Thank God for Bill Ross, who is a superstar. And I borrowed him as one of my dad's colleagues. And I was like, Dad, can I steal your music guy? But that moment suddenly was all about her. And I had thought it was all about Coach just figuring out something, but it wasn't. It was all about the mom and the daughter. And those moments, even when you write it and do everything with it, they'll surprise you.
Well, I think it was really about pivoting too, how all the characters in Little Angels really got to a very different place. And I just want to mention that your dad got you into the movie business, and he's a director and writer, and he actually encouraged you to get into the business because you were in football and went to Princeton.
Yeah, he encouraged me to get in as a writer, though. He was like, don't do it as an actor. When I said I might want to be an actor, he was like, his 3-word piece of advice was, don't do it. And I think what he meant by that, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I know he wanted to protect me. And this is before the internet and everybody's world and business got out there. I think he wanted me to have some anonymity. He said, be a writer, because I had always been writing. I've always been a good writer. And in fact, I had a writing gig the same time I got cast as Superman. I had a writing gig with a studio. And I wrote episodes of Lois and Clark as well. So I've been writing forever and writing behind my dad in all of his movies. He did Young Guns. That was Then This Is Now, The Principal, Pure Country. I mean, it goes on and on and on, the films he's done. And Dad is fantastic. But I was always behind him writing or doing something, and he'd bring me in. So he was cultivating that in me. And that was wonderful. And he saw the movie the other night at the premiere, and he was like, that's pretty good, buddy. You did good. And that's about the best he'll give you.
Well, that sounds pretty good. And I know you have a very good relationship with your dad, and you talk about him in such glowing ways, which it sounds like he deserves. But you really grew up in kind of like Hollywood, in Malibu, with a lot of like the 80s heartthrobs, right?
We were actually, my dad adopted me when I was 4 years old, and we were living in Hollywood. I was born in Michigan. My mom came out with two little Japanese looking kids, which wasn't so popular back in the day, and brought them out to Hollywood. And my mom is a force of nature. So she brought us out there, single mom, two kids, same dad. So we looked the same, two little Asian kids running around. And my dad came into our life, and immediately for me, I was like, Dad, you're my dad. And not like that's tough pressure to put on a guy just starting to date a woman. But he really my dad is he's the most influential figure in my life. But we moved to Malibu because I ended up finding a revolver, a gun that was used in a crime in our neighborhood, because we were playing cops and robbers. And I was the youngest. I didn't have anything. So I thought I'd be resourceful. And I found it in a pond. And it turned out to be a weapon that was used in this crime. And it was just awful. So my dad and mom moved us out of Hollywood, right into Malibu, California, when I was the grand old age of 5, I believe. Our parents were best friends with the Penn family. So Leo and Eileen Penn, whose children, Sean Penn, Chris Penn, Michael Penn, so we grew up with those guys as our parents' best friends. Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Holly Robinson, all of us grew up together, junior high school, elementary school, all these things together, Chad Lowe, and it was great growing up. But I didn't think we were any different than anybody else. We were all, trying to be, good, do well in school, be good athletes, surf, go to the beach, whatever the case was. And then they started acting. I had the opportunity to go to Princeton University. I was very blessed. The greatest thing I ever did is leave Hollywood, go to Princeton, completely change my perspective, meet so many incredibly interesting people. And the people who I met while I was there, I'm in tremendous contact with now. And they're all over the place, from a rear admiral in the Navy to the current Secretary of Defense. Although we were years apart, there's something about that Princeton connection. Prince of Jordan, Jeff Bezos was there, Michelle Obama was there. I mean, all sorts of people that are influenced, have influence in the world. And so it's a really great place to go to school for that in itself. Although I would pick on what the Ivy Leagues, especially Harvard, has become lately. I was very blessed to have been able to go there.
I actually saw an old documentary. I think you work with Montel Williams, about the genocide of the Armenian community, which I really liked as well.
Yeah, that was called Architects of Denial. And we discussed the origins and the reality of the Armenian genocide, where 1.5 million Armenians were slaughtered, starting off in Istanbul, which was Constantinople back in the day, and when they decided to just erase the Armenians as best they could. And it was absolutely awful. It's where they coined the term genocide. And it was great to work with Montel. We don't agree politically all the time, but I love Montel. And I really appreciate his service as a Navy guy. And we're great friends. But when we have a political conversation, we just wrestle a little bit. And that's okay.
I think we should be able to have different political ideologies
100%.
And still have friends. I mean, I don't want to just speak to people who have the same ideas I do. That doesn't get me anywhere. I don't learn anything that way.
Unfortunately, that's sort of become the norm, because it's become the norm to vilify the other side, not to sit down and have a reasonable debate. And I think a lot of that is because of social media, which I think explains the idea of why podcasts have become so prevalent and so enjoyed by so many, because you're not just getting a soundbite. You're not getting 13 seconds. And I know how to do the sound bites because I've been on enough news programs. I've hosted the Today Show. I hosted Fox News, Fox and Friends, done all that. I get the sound bites. I understand that. But when you sit down and have an in-depth conversation, much better. That's why Joe Rogan is blown up, and he asks questions. He's just curious. And he was, they'll take sides eventually because we all end up having an opinion at some point in time, but he's honest about it. When the news media is out there, Joe will be like, hey, I like this. I think this is stupid. I think this is funny. The mainstream media folks will get out there and pretend they're completely bipartisan and they're completely partisan. So they'll pretend they're neutral, but they have a serious agenda, and you see it every day, and people are becoming more hip to it. So it's a weird time in our world. We're in a transition that I think, and I hope and pray will be something we look back at and go, wow, that was interesting.
I hope so too. And you've made some really interesting decisions in your career that is basically in alignment with, how you think religiously and just having certain standards. And that's certainly evident in the film Little Angels, which I really like because there's so few films out there that have like a morality or are uplifting or give us something to shoot for. And that was very much in your film.
Oh, no doubt about it. There was one particular character, Michaela. She was lovely and she was so fun. So she's our resident Bible thumper, if you will. And she's so funny. And somebody put together a sort of a little mashup of a lot of her scenes. And it's really funny to watch her progression because I didn't do that. I mean, I knew the progression because I wrote it and I directed it, but I hadn't seen it. And it was really funny to watch that little compilation of all the things that happened to her. They're trying to name the team and they're going with little devils. They're streaming devils. And she's like holding her Bible. And I like to make a lot of Christian movies. I'm a Christian. I'm not going to shove it down anybody's throats, but I'll tell stories about Christians and certainly people who are flawed. And God uses everybody, oftentimes using very flawed individuals to tell a story. And certainly Coach Jake in Little Angels is self-centered, egocentric, very flawed, but the kids redeem him.
And also themes of the importance of family. But really, I saw certain aspects of you in this film. And I'm wondering if you identified with the coach in this movie and saw some similarities.
Absolutely. Well, so what happened was you're always coming up with ideas for movies and doing things. And I'm always writing and coming up with stuff. And my goddaughter and my niece were playing against each other in soccer. And they were on opposite teams and they were both in the goal and it went to overtime. So I knew one of them was going to be crying and one was going to be celebrating. Turned out my goddaughter got scored on. Great shot, by the way, nothing she could do. And then I had to explain to them, look, it's team. There's nothing you could do. You're only as good as your team can be and do your best you can. And then we went out to have ice cream and 15 minutes later, everybody was laughing and happy. But it was a heartbreak at the time. And I thought, what do you guys do when you're getting ready for a game, like the team bond and things? Because I've been an athlete my whole life. I've done a million team bonding things. And my best friends in the world are still my friends from college football because you live and you die and you bleed with them and you understand who they are. You know what they're made of. And they were like, well, the only movies we'd get together and watch would be like that soccer, Bend It Like Beckham was a little old for them because it deals with other themes and things like that. And then it was like Ladybugs. That was about it. And I was like, well, isn't it about time? And so I thought of myself, what I know about soccer, which is very limited, but I know about team building and I know about teams. And so I sort of plugged that in as a character and made him sort of a Nick Saban type big time college coach. And now he has to go coach these little kids because I had to coach my kid growing up and I had to coach, these, and sometimes you don't know what you're doing and the kids, you're the coach, you're supposed to know. And that's the fun part of it. So I thought there was a lot of humor in that. And there was a lot of me certainly in Coach Jake, no question about it.
Well, I certainly love the happy ending. If we were talking about pivots, both in the movie and in your own life, what would you say the biggest pivots for you have been so far?
I'd say the very biggest is when my son was born. When my son was born in the year 2000, it changed my whole world. And suddenly I was not the most important person in my own life. And there's something about that just changes you. You're like, what is this? And it's bigger than you. You can't, there's just something, at least for me, that was my feeling. And I just was, there are people who are awful parents and who do terrible things. And I'm certainly not accusing you of being that or anything of that nature. But for the most part, it changed me completely because I love this person and I love who he's become. And his journey hasn't been easy and none of the journeys are. Parenthood is very difficult, but it's the most rewarding thing I've ever dealt with in my life. As being a professional football player, very, very proud of that. Being a college All-American, very proud of that. Having gone to Princeton, proud of that. Proud of Little Angels, proud of all these things. But nothing compares to being a father. So even on my ex bio, if you read my bio, it says father. It's the first thing I say. And family is huge to me. So, I mean, my son went to a college in North Carolina called High Point University. And it is, what is it? It's faith, family, country. And I believe in those things. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be here in the United States. And having played the Man of Steel, I do believe in truth, justice, and the American way. Very much so, because I think we're the freest, greatest nation in the country, even though we have these stumbles and these things that we go through. I live and breathe the stars and stripes and all of the things that it represents.
We are really lucky to have you because you are leading the way in what important values do to a person. And we need that. We need to see it reflected in our films so that we have something to shoot for and connect to. And I'm a huge fan of Little Angels. It really impacted me strongly. So congratulations on that. And where can people see this fabulous film?
Well, first of all, thank you for watching it, though, too, and going through the experience. It's a whole different interview when you've seen it. It's great. So if you want to see the film, and I hope you all want to see the film who are out there in computer world or in the internet world, you can go to littleangelsmovie.com, click theaters, and then put in your area code or your zip code, rather, and it'll tell you where it's playing in your area. And if it's not playing in your area, hit demand and we'll try to get it into theater nearby. Otherwise, in a few weeks, it'll be on streaming and it'll be everywhere and you won't be able to avoid My Little Angels, and they will come in and inspire you in so many ways. The girls are so great.
Everyone was great. They live in your heart. I just need to tell you that, Dean. So I took them with me after I saw the movie, and that's a sign of a really powerful movie. So again, congratulations, because they do live inside. People are going to walk away and still feel them and feel the storyline. And I couldn't imagine writing something that would have that kind of impact, but I'm really appreciative of the talent that you have in that regard. And where can people find you so that they can follow you as you walk to the beat of your own drummer?
You can find me on X at RealDeanCain. You can find me on Instagram at Deuces, spelled out DEUCES, 1966, the year of my birth. My son made that for me a long time ago, and I'm not changing it. And then I recently just got a Facebook account, so they can find me there as well. Quick question for you.
Yeah.
All the characters, so those characters are so great in Little Angels, and I love them to death. I think people are going to start picking a character that they connect with, especially. I hope they do. If you had to pick one, who would it be?
I love the little girl, the Asian girl. I thought she was just so adorable and wise. And I could also see the parallels in terms of your life. Like at the end, we hope she gets an adopted father who is an important impact on her life.
Yep, there we go. That's it. That's it. You're seeing through me.
You know, it's a bad habit as a therapist, but I am marching with you. I am marching with you. And thank you so much for joining The Pivot.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for having me.